Hello, everybody. We are at the top of the hour here, so we're going to jump right into this. Thank you for joining. I see people lining up here. So, welcome. My name is Paul Hitchcock, and this is our Wealth Protector TV channel where we guide, teach, and help our community on topics that we think are important to you. Really excited to have David Calderon here. He's a partner with the firm, my colleague, one of our top speakers, top attorneys. David, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Paul. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I want to tell everybody that we are recording this. We're gonna get the replay out. If you don't know us, Barth Calderon, we're an asset protection, estate planning, business planning firm. We have about 12,000 clients across the country. We're headquartered there in that building in Orange County, California, and we put on workshops everywhere. And we have a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, families across the country as clients. And I did put in chat because this always comes up. We want your Q&A here. So raise your hand, put your questions in the chat. Happy to get them answered as we're going through this. But also, if you want to get one-on-one with David after this, complimentary, get on a Zoom call, click the link in the chat, and that then will come in. We'll get you scheduled with David, get on a Zoom, and he can look at your situation and you'll kind of go from there. But David, let's get into this. We are talking about some corporate executive plans here. I'm going to let you roll with it.
Yeah, no, these are becoming more and more popular with clients, and I've been practicing law now for 34 years. My background started my practice doing nothing but litigation and trial work, but defending a lot of doctors, defending all sorts of insurance-related liability things, and really honed my skills in the courtroom. Continued that on through a trial practice here at BarthCalderon. And I've focused lately more on trying to leverage all the lessons and things that I've learned in the courtroom and to how you can make or help you make better decisions when you're sitting in your boardroom or sitting in your office and trying to protect your business, protect what you've taken a lifetime to build. And now a lot of our clients, as I've gotten older with clients, I have a lot of clients I've worked over long-term planning and long-term cycles. A lot of them now are looking at exiting the business, right? How do I package my business to sell? Maybe I want to not sell it and pass it on to the next generation of my family. But looking at all those different options. And a lot of times also too, maybe you've got an employee who's a real key employee of yours who gets an offer from a competitor. Maybe that offer involves some form of equity or something along those lines. And you want to counter that. You want to keep those employees on side. And again, like I said, you may be looking to package the business to sell. In order to do that, you're going to need to retain your key people and maybe either let them have an offer perhaps to purchase the business or make it attractive for them to go with whomever is going to buy your business. But in either way, you want to keep them on side so you can not only maintain the value of your business, but grow it. And one of the real creative ways of keeping your key employees on side and driving value in your business while treating them like an owner is to look at these phantom stock plans and stock appreciation rights plans. And these are really popular with clients to incentivize employees not only to work hard, but it creates a golden handcuff in terms of keeping them on site, keeping them employed with you. But it also lets them share in the growth of the business, just like they would if they had ownership, except they don't have a lot of the downside of ownership. A lot of people love to have their name on the door or love to be able to say, yeah, I'm an owner, no matter what size, even if it's 5%, 10%, or what have you. But they don't often look at what the negative implications of those things are for themselves, right? All of a sudden, their credit is maybe an issue. Maybe they have to sign personal guarantees or co-sign on loans. Maybe they have to sign the dotted line on leases. All of a sudden, they have a bit of responsibility for employee issues and wage and hour stuff and things like that. All the issues that all of you folks know come with running a business that a lot of times just the general public and a lot of times even your own employees don't see. So this is a way of basically kind of allowing employees to share on the upside of the business growth and value, um, without a lot of the negative implications or things that they may have or extra responsibilities they may have that come with actually owning a piece of the business. And for you, if you're able to convince your employees to engage in these types of programs, your higher level employees, you don't have to give up any stock or you don't have to give up any membership interest in an LLC. You don't have the same level of fiduciary duties to them like you would with a minority stockholder or with a minority owner of an LLC. Inspection rights, things of that nature, reporting rights. No, because really these key employees remain employees, yet they're kind of bonused out as you would an owner in terms of getting distributions or dividends or what have you. And so there are basically two types of these plans, of these stock incentive plans or membership interest incentive plans. There is a straight phantom equity plan where employees that come into that plan at a certain date, maybe 5 years down the road, 7 years down the road, even like 3 years down the road, may get the right to earn equity units that vest over time that track the value of the company, and they can cash in on those at the end of this period, and they get basically kind of whatever a percentage of whatever the value of the business is. If the business is worth a million bucks, then perhaps they get phantom equity units that mirror 10% of the value of the business. They get the right to receive $100,000 at the end of that vesting period, when these things become live. And then if you have a well-worked plan, then you can also control how you pay out that $100,000. But those types of plans are usually shared with employees who've been with you for a really long time, and maybe are integral to the growth of the business over time. You don't necessarily want to reward them for forward-looking stuff, but you want to recognize the value that they brought. Maybe a key financial person like a CFO or somebody that manages the shop. Somebody who's really without them that you have a hard time functioning, growing, and keeping the business going. The
David, a
second,
quick question is, what
yeah,
is the tax treatment on the phantom equity appreciation? Is it ordinary income or treated as capital gains?
it's treated as compensation for the employees, so it's treated as ordinary income if it's done right. And we can talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that later on. But I want to get into the second kind of plan, which is an appreciation rights plan, where basically employees are sharing in the growth of the business from point A to say point B. And that point B can either be just them leaving the company at a certain point with a certain amount of phantom equity, that is a percentage of the growth in the business, like say from today to a point 5 years from now. Or if you sell the business, then at the time of sale, they get cashed out from the proceeds of a sale. But what you're looking to do is perhaps reward employees for driving and fueling growth of the business, with an eye towards a sale. And if you're looking at a sale or an exit event, you probably should be looking for maybe at least a 3 year timeline, maybe 3 to 5, depending on how, what you need to take care of and things behind the scenes. And the type of employees that work well with the appreciation rights agreements are, say, like vice presidents of sales or salespeople, or those folks who directly can contribute to sales volume, to growth, to things of that nature. Because what you're looking for at that point is to drive up the value of the company, right? Either for your own personal benefit or for a transfer, for a sale, passing it along to the kids, or doing, whatever it is that you want to do. And I've done tons of both of those plans, just the straight phantom equity ones and also the appreciation rights plans. And so, like I said, it lets your employees share in the value of the business and they have skin in the game at this point in time, but it doesn't have a lot of the ownership entanglements and things that are involved with that. So Um, Let me think of a good case study I could give you. I had a client who basically had a second in command who was offered a position by a competitor with real equity in the company. It was a very attractive, type of situation. And essentially, my client, we came up with a good appreciation rights plan that not only allowed the employee to potentially, just take the cash as ordinary income, and the income that they receive from these plans is basically earned income for them. It's a bonus, in other words, but also gave them the right to cash in the units of equity um, in exchange for potential ownership in the company at the discretion of the owner. And that employee ended up staying with our client and not going and taking advantage of the opportunity to leave and get real equity because they were comfortable where they at. They felt they were being compensated properly, and they looked at it as, hey, maybe I'll have a chance down the road to kind of convert what I've earned into actual ownership of the business. Now, like I said, the way that these plans work is you're creating synthetic equity or units, phantom units that track along the lines of, say, the price of a share of stock or the price of a membership unit or membership interest in the company, and those are earned by the employee over time. So maybe you have a plan where in 5 years they earn five of these phantom units, right? And so maybe in year one they earn one unit, year two they earn two units, year three, three, and so forth till they get to five. And then at the end of that 5 year time frame, they've got all five units, and then they've earned the right, they vest and they earn the right to receive the benefits of ownership of those units, maybe upon an exit event if they leave the company or there's some parting of the ways that doesn't involve a termination for cause. Now, if they leave the company, if they've earned units before the vesting period ends, right before that 5 year period ends, they lose everything. So they have to stick around for that 5 years in order for their rights to participate in the plan to vest under that example. And each one of these units, like I said, tracks with the value of a share of stock or tracks with the value of a membership interest. So it would behoove you at the outset of these plans. You're going to definitely need to do this if you do an appreciation rights plan, but you should also do it probably if you have a phantom equity plan, but get a simple valuation, or if you can do one internally of what the company is worth at that time, and then say, okay, this is the percentage of the value of the company that I'm comfortable sharing with employees under a phantom equity plan. And then you create a formula that converts those to units. So say if it's a straight phantom equity plan, at the end of the day, I'm comfortable giving up a pool of 10% of the value of the company. Then you create a value that tracks and enables you to possibly either share that one employee, share it with multiple employees, maybe share it with future employees, but it breaks it down into kind of a unit value, and we work with you in terms of doing that. It's the same thing for an appreciation rights plan. What you want to do is, okay, this is what the company is worth today, and this is what our revenue goal is going to be 5 years down the road, or however you want to track that value or the value of the company, what that goal is going to be 5 years, 7 years down the road, 3 years down the road, and then figure out a percentage. Okay, how much of that potential growth am I willing to give up to employees? And then we help you again reduce that down to a formula that creates phantom units. And then those units are distributed to current employees. You can hold some in reserve to use, like maybe, you run into some dynamite salesperson and you want to bring them on, or somebody who's incredible at reorganizing the back office and getting all of your systems in line and doing the things that you need to do to help package to sell. Maybe you want to give them phantom units. So you don't give them all out at once. What you do is formulate them down into a way where they have value that allows you to play with the units with the employees in terms of what you want to give and what you want to retain and maybe hold back for somebody else. And the great thing too about these plans is we build in language that allows, basically it has kind of natural non-competition factors in there in the plan in terms of while they're getting paid out, things of that nature, their ability to compete against you if they have left, and yet they're being paid out on a phantom plan. We make them very employer friendly and employer comfortable. So if you guys enter into one of these plans, you're not hit with this giant liquidation event. That oh my God, I got to pay out all this money at say year 5 or year 6 or whatever, but create it in a way where you can do it in steps. So you're not, hit with this major liquidation problem if you don't sell the company yet you've got to pay out on the obligations of the plan. A lot of the folks who sell their companies and have these plans with their employees, they just cash them out of the proceeds of sale, right? So that's done. And what helps you, not so much with just the regular phantom equity plan, which is just tracked on value and not growth. There you may have a payment obligation, but um, if you have uh, an appreciation rights plan, for example, if the company doesn't appreciate over that period of time, then you don't owe the employee anything either, right? Because the goal is to grow the company, and they're only going to make money on the growth in value of the company. If it doesn't grow in value, or if it goes negative, then obviously they're not going to have any participation rights in the plan. So
David, we've got a
yeah,
qualifying question here. Can I
sure,
interject that?
absolutely.
Yeah. So, what if a more qualified person, example, a foreman comes along? This is a small construction family GC business with 4 to 6 good workers already employed. Wife is broker, associate wife. How do you value marketing project finder?
It all depends. I mean, and that's a very lawyer answer. I understand that. These plans are created for what they're called top hat plans. That's how the IRS refers to them. But they're more for executives or people that are kind of higher up at the company. So if there an argument can be made that the foreman is at more of an executive level position with your smaller construction company, or even like the marketing person, give them a title, vice president of marketing, right? Because like it's more for top line employees, people that have more management responsibilities, things like that. That's how I think you would be able to classify them. I don't understand the broker associate thing. I don't know, like broker associate meaning like the real estate that is a little unclear, but more than happy to talk about that if you want, Maureen, offline as well. So that's how you would look at that. And there are really tight IRS regs that come into play. Um, Internal Revenue Code Section 409, for example, comes into play that has rules regarding, who qualifies under the plan, what the payout structure has to be. If the plan is less than 3 years in length, 409 Section 409 is probably not going to apply. If it's more than 3 years, it probably will. So that's why I talk about like a top hat plan where you need to have somebody who the IRS would look at as more of an executive person in the company. And also, paying out, under a certain time frame and under certain guidelines as well. But that's why you hire a lawyer to help you do these things, is because we make plans that are 409 compliant. Whereas, like if you went on, say, Chat GPT or Claude, or say, hey, create me a stock appreciation rights plan, it may hallucinate, it may not give you the correct answer. So, and the penalties can not for non-compliance can be fairly stiff. So you want to make sure that you talk to a lawyer and have a lawyer help you, put one of these things together.
David, Marine clarifies, said there, if you gave a foreman more shares than a more qualified worker, project person comes along, how do you redistribute shares?
I don't think you necessarily redistribute shares. I think what this is where the situation comes along where you perhaps you don't give out all the shares that you've carved out, or the units, I should say, that you've carved out under the plan, right? So say you've created a plan that can hand out 10 units of phantom equity, right? Which may be 10% of the value of the company, right? Maybe you only give the foreman one or two shares and you hold back. So if somebody else comes along that you hire, then you have the option of putting this on the table for a compensation package and say, not only, well, I pay you your salary and benefits or whatever, but also I'll give you the opportunity to participate in this phantom equity plan that we have here in the company. So that's really how you would, I think address, if I'm reading your question right, that's how you would address that situation.
David, it sounds like when you're building the plan, just to in line with this question here, gets me thinking is you really got to think about company strategy, right? In your existing
Absolutely.
team, holes you got to fill, maybe that around the corner or a longer period of time. But it's yeah, you just got to be careful about how you're allocating shares and when you do it and for who, looking at the big picture. Fair statement.
Absolutely. This needs to be part of a long-term plan or project or vision that you have, for your business. Not something you necessarily go into kind of willy-nilly. Something that kind of it's like a piece of a puzzle. It fits in the context of the larger picture. And like I said, it could be a situation where, hey, we got a revenue target growth scenario. And the overwhelming majority of plans that I do are the appreciation rights plans for either corporations or LLCs, right? Where they're wanting to drive growth, either for just to increase everybody's revenue and have that rising tide lift all boats, or they're looking to sell at a point down the line and maximize value for a sale. And so, in that case, you want to look at what are your targets going to be and how much of that growth do I feel comfortable sharing with my employees, letting them share in? It could be 5%, it could be 10%, it could be 20%. All depends on what the overall big picture is and how much you think these people are going to be able to contribute to the growth of the company. And keep in mind with the appreciation rights plan, again, they only share in this if the company grows. If the company does not grow during that period between when they become members of the plan and after they have vested, and then there's an exit event. If it hasn't grown in value, then you're not going to owe them anything.
David, I have a couple questions. Can I start throwing
Yeah,
out some that came in?
sure.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
so the liquidity issue, this question was emailed in. How do owners typically fund the payout when a triggering event occurs? Is it keeping a cash reserve? I know you said the sale of the company. What goes around that?
Yeah, you want to keep records in terms of how much, phantom units you issued out. Each employee, the way these usually work is the company would have a plan, and then you'd have a participant agreement for each employee that participates in it that outlines how many units of phantom equity they're going to get, when they're going to receive them, when they vest, meaning they have a right to receive payment, and how they're going to be paid out in the instance of an exit event. Either they leave the company, retire, quit, company sells, things of that nature. And usually the way, so you want to be able to track that, right? So in terms of, how much is that unit worth, like not maybe next year and the year after that. And so you can kind of prepare yourself to be able to make those payouts. And we also usually when we build the agreements, we build in payment in steps or tranches, right? So, and sometimes they go out over a period of years. So, say you own less than 50, owe the employee less than 15 or $15,000, then you may pay them out quarterly over the course of 1 year. If they're owed between 15 and $50,000, you get 2 years or 3 years to do that under the same kind of formula. Depending on how big the payout is, but it's meant to be in a way where it gives you flexibility in terms of cash reserves and payroll and how much you're going to have to pay these folks out.
If you sell the company, let's say you sell it before you think you were going to sell it, for whatever reason, you get an offer.
Yeah.
Question here is, do these plans typically accelerate at that point and pay out immediately, or can they be rolled over into the new buying entity?
Well, I would probably say the new buying entity, based on all the deal making and stuff that I do, is probably not going to want to buy those
Oh,
programs,
yeah.
right? So they're going to those are liabilities they're going to keep with the old business. So usually, what you would have is a scenario where they vest immediately upon on the closing of a sale, and then you pay those people out from the proceeds of sale, right? um, or perhaps you can build in something that allows you to do that again still over time. But usually, those, the phantom plans vest at the time of sale, meaning the employees get the right to payment. Because normally, like I said, the new buying entity is not going to want to take on those obligations and those liabilities. So
Yeah. And I'll encourage everyone, put your
yeah.
questions in there as I'm reading
Unless,
through these that came
yeah,
in.
unless they're buying the entity itself, but as you folks all probably know, most deals go down as asset sales, right?
Right.
So, yeah. Um,
David, did these uh yeah, so contact information. I'm going to do this. So let me so I put a link again there. I know it's kind of a big link there, but he's asking contact information. If you click on that, fill out your information there. That'll get you booked with David, and it'll take you just a second there. We get your name and email address, get you on his calendar. So click that link in the chat, Maureen. You see that there, and then um, uh, David, the is there ever any ERISA risk where these plans cross the line into becoming a pension plan, or is that not something to worry about?
no, they're drafted in a way to keep them out of that, and that's what the 409 regulations, things like that, come into play as well. There are specific carve outs for ERISA, but they have to meet certain requirements, as I said, have to be with a top hat level type executive, have to be paid out in a certain manner, that sort of thing. But yeah, they're meant to be specifically excluded from ERISA.
Okay. One of the last questions I have here is that you may have answered this, but if an employee is terminated for cause, do these things go away?
Yes.
Okay.
The plans I draft, yes, if somebody is terminated for cause, um, yeah, they will lose the right, they'll forfeit the right to their units, vesting, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, and I want to say to everyone listening that we do have tax attorneys as part of our team here.
Yeah.
We also have CPAs on board who are aligned with David. We're a highly collaborative team here, and so what I know, David, you've mentioned before, a benefit is having the expertise around you as you get involved with the owners and putting these things together. We're not trying to figure out tax questions, with third parties. You're collaborating already on this and got the answers next door to you in the next
Yeah.
office.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure do.
Any other questions here? As we're another question. Does the taxing change for employees if the employee takes a reduction in pay for partial consideration of phantom equity?
Um, God, yeah, I mean, it's still taxed as ordinary income when it's paid. So it's going to be subject to all the withholding and things of that nature. So I don't think the nature of the way it's taxed is going to change. And it's not taxed until it's paid out. So, I don't think that the characterization of the way it's taxed is necessarily going to change. Um, Hopefully, Michael, that answers your question. If not, maybe we can talk offline.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, because David, when you put these plans in place, part of it is around owners and the discussion with management they're offering these plans to is
Yeah.
there's a right way to present this and to make sure all your ducks in a row, which do you get involved in that discussion with owners as you roll this out?
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where, sometimes you need to overcome the whole thing of like, well, wait a second. I want a stock certificate, or I want a membership certificate, or I want my name on the door, or I want this, or I want that. And so, you have to be in a position to talk to the employee about how this is beneficial as opposed to, the actual physical ownership scenario. In this case, they get, they get bonused out and paid for growth, much like you would do if you're an owner at a liquidation event, but you don't have all the downside that comes with ownership for an employee. And for an owner too, you don't have all the downside of having a partner in your business that you don't necessarily want to have.
Yep. Good stuff. We're here. Hit the wall. I want to thank everybody for being here. Again, we'll get the replay out to everybody that RSVP'd. The link, and with that replay, will also include the link there to get signed up with David. If you can click on it now, save that, fill that out. One-on-one with David, free Zoom or phone call. Get acquainted. Happy to address questions there personally to you from David. David, awesome, quick hit, love it. Thanks for bringing this to our attention.
You got it. And if you ever want to talk to me, I don't charge you for a phone call. I know there's people on here that have worked with me before, and until the meter starts running. So always here to answer questions and love to help. So
Awesome. All right, see you soon, David.
you got to take care. Bye.